Hi everyone, it's Mark. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. In the spirit of hysteria and the world is ending all over these YouTube videos, I'm going to share with you my favorite way to purchase houses when the blood is running in the streets and everyone is giving away their properties for pennies on the dollar. I'm going to tell you how to purchase properties at foreclosure from the bank. As always, if you could help me out with that YouTube algorithm and smash the like button, and if you don't want to miss any of my future videos, you can subscribe as well. The cliched holy grail of purchasing properties is to find the don't wanter, the distress sale. As Robert Allen calls them, the people who don't want their property, the don't wanters. Distress sales are where these properties are. Probate sales, divorce sales, and yes, of course, foreclosure sales. Foreclosure sales sit squarely in the area of distress sales. Anyone who was watching the market or participating in the market in 2008 can tell you without a doubt foreclosure sales are distress sales, because in 2008 alone there were over 2.3 million foreclosure sales. That's a lot of distress. And with Scott Walters promising that 10 million people are going to be walking away from their homes, now is a great time to go to your sofa and flip over those sofa cushions, look under there, grab your quarters, grab your pennies. Let's go out in the market, lift up those welcome mats, grab those keys, and purchase some of those properties that people are just walking away from. First, what is a foreclosure? When someone purchases a property and they get a loan against that property, they pledge the property as collateral against the loan. If they make all of their payments, then when the loan is over in 15 or 30 years and they've made all their payments, they own the property free and clear with no mortgage. However, if they don't make any of their payments along the way, then eventually the lender can put them into default and foreclose on their property and take back the property as collateral against the loan. During the COVID pandemic, government agencies at all levels of government, federal, state, county, and local, all put in foreclosure moratoriums which prevented lenders from foreclosing on those properties. The last of those moratoriums are coming to an end. Because of the end of the moratorium and the backlog in foreclosures, as well as the rise in interest rates, which is going to put pressure on homeowners in terms of job losses and the general state of the economy, more foreclosures are going to be coming up than have been in the system in the past few years. Some buyers will go into default and eventually lose their property and have it taken back by the bank. There are 3 stages in the foreclosure process, and I'm going to focus on the final one. That is real estate owned, or REO for short. 3 of the first 4 properties that I purchased for my rental portfolio were in fact REOs. 2 of them I sold for a nice profit after a few years, and the 3rd one I still own today and hold it as a rental. When a borrower defaults on their loan, typically by missing payments, the lender can foreclose on the property and take the house back. When a house goes through the entire foreclosure process, it is not redeemed by the original borrower, it is not purchased at auction, then it is taken back by the bank, the original lender, and they own the property. The borrower who purchased the property no longer has any association with the property at all. There are many benefits to purchasing a property as an REO as opposed to the earlier stages of the foreclosure process. Most of those benefits relate to the fact that purchasing an REO is very similar to a standard real estate transaction. What I mean by this is that you can get access to the property prior to escrow and after you enter into a contract with the bank during escrow. That means you can have a full inspection of the property. The bank may very well be unwilling to make any repairs and state that they are selling the property as is. That's okay. At least you will know what the condition of the property is. There will not be any surprises after you purchase the property, such as an air conditioner unit not working at all, or the plumbing pipes being completely corroded and broken. All major problems like these can be exposed and discovered during the inspection period. Even if the lender refuses to make repairs on the property, you can walk away from the transaction and get your earnest money deposit back. The second benefit to purchasing an REO is that you're buying from a bank, not an owner-occupant. The bank has never lived in the property, has no emotional attachment to the property. It's simply a business transaction for the bank. They won't get offended if you make a lowball offer and walk away from the transaction. The bank will not be insulted if you point out problems in the condition of the property. Just like it's a business transaction for you purchasing an investment property for your portfolio, it's also a business transaction for the bank. An added benefit to dealing with the bank as a business transaction and being able to get an inspection is that you can still negotiate with the bank. Even if they won't make any repairs, they may reduce the purchase price, especially if the home is in terrible condition or if your inspection reveals problems, major problems especially, that the bank was not aware of. And again, the bank will not be insulted, will not walk away from the transaction just because you request a lower price, just because you point out problems in the property that your inspection revealed. The bank may or may not reduce the price, may or may not make the repairs, but it's not an emotional transaction. It's a business transaction for you and the bank. Also, if you're able to provide the bank with a list of comparable sales in similar condition that have sold recently, then the bank may agree to a lower price. However, if they don't, again, because you've got an inspection contingency in the contract, you can walk away from the deal and just take back your earnest money deposit. Another benefit to purchasing at the REO stage of foreclosures is that you do not need to pay all cash for the property. You can get financing. You can get a standard 80% loan where you put 20% down. You can even get an FHA loan where you put 3.5% down. Because you are purchasing from a bank, from the lender, they should always be your first stop in terms of financing the property. You can often get attractive terms in terms of down payment, in terms of interest rate, financing on the property if you go directly to the bank who's selling you the property. Again, because this is a business transaction for the bank, they are not going to get offended if you ask them to carry the financing. This is a business transaction for them. The worst thing that happens is that the bank just declines your request and you continue to negotiate. More likely, the bank will counter your offer for financing with something else, something that still may be more attractive in terms of financing than what you could get on the open market. When buying an REO, you will be purchasing a vacant property. It will not have an owner in it that needs an extra 2 weeks to get into their new home. It will not have a tenant in it that you need to evict if you want to live in the property or put your own tenant in it. Typically, the owner will just leave during the final stages of foreclosure. But if not, the bank will do the eviction. You will not need to. There may be some repairs, but those will come out during the inspection. Typically, at the very least, the bank will clear out the property. No one will be living there, and there will be no property there. It will be completely empty. The best reason why you should purchase REOs is the way banks look at houses that they carry on their books. When you purchase a house from a bank or anyone else, it's an asset on your net worth statement. The banks do not look at it this way. This house is a liability for the bank. The bank would much rather have a performing loan on their books than an REO house. Additionally, every 6 months, the banks have to write down the value of this house on their books. At the 6, 12, 18-month mark, banks are going to be even more motivated to negotiate on a house that they have in their REO inventory. Always remember that the way a bank looks at an REO home is nothing like an owner-occupant. There's no emotion, and it's not an asset. It is not good for them to own this home. So far, it looks like there's absolutely no downside to buying REOs, and to some extent, that's true. However, with the REO process, the one thing you may run into is competition. Because banks look at this as a business, and the way they look at properties that they own in their portfolio, they are very motivated to get them off the books, especially when they're about to have to write them down. Because of this, banks can be very aggressive in terms of fixing the property and marketing the property. This means that it can be difficult to get a below market deal because banks have appraisers on staff. They know what a property is worth, and while they do want to get rid of it, they're not in the business of giving it away either. So it can look a lot like a standard transaction, as I mentioned before, both in terms of the way the deal transpires in terms of escrow and financing, but also in terms of the fact that you may not be getting a great deal in terms of price. My favorite strategy for getting a better deal from a bank on REOs is to approach the bank directly. The person you will want to speak to is the asset manager. Now, this isn't going to work at the larger banks. Don't call Chase or Bank of America. You're not going to get anywhere. Their REO departments are centralized and they're massive. Additionally, they have rehab crews who do all the renovations to get their properties back into pristine condition, and they have a set of captive realtors who do nothing but sell properties for those banks. You're not going to get a great deal from Chase or Bank of America or massive banks like that. Your best bet is to contact local or regional banks. One of my favorite strategies when approaching a local bank is to talk to their asset manager and ask them what's the property on their books that they most want to get rid of. And then I tell the asset manager, I'll take that property if I can also buy another one from you. This is a real win-win situation for everyone. The bank gets rid of a property that they really want to get rid of, and on the other hand, I get a nice property that I get to choose from the bank's inventory. And of course, I'm going to ask the bank to finance both of these properties together. That way the bank gets rid of 2 properties that they have on their books at the present time, and they replace them with 2 performing loans. That's awesome for everybody. Finally, beware of banks that specialize in FHA mortgages. Guild Mortgage is one of these. These loans are guaranteed by the federal government, and after the bank takes back the property, the federal government will reimburse the bank their entire cost in terms of the loan and their costs. So the bank has absolutely no incentive to make a deal with you. Eventually, these properties will get taken back and they'll be listed by the federal government on the Housing and Urban Development or HUD website. You can purchase properties off the HUD website. However, historically, they have not been great deals for investors. HUD is very incentivized to sell properties to owner-occupants. They much prefer to do that, and in fact, at the beginning of the sale process, owner-occupants have strict right to purchase the property. Investors are not even allowed to bid on them. And even after the owner-occupant only time frame has passed, HUD typically doesn't write down the properties a lot. You're not going to typically get a great price on HUD repos. But you can go to the website and look if you want, search by area. This is Mark. Thank you for joining me today. That's what I think about foreclosures, and I'm going to go out and look for some, so I think you should too, because like Scott says, there's going to be 10 million of them coming up soon, but until then, keep that cash register spinning.